from LJ Institute of Engineering and Technology in the Department of Electronics and Communication. Welcomes you to the session of wireless communication. Today I am going to discuss about Unit 2, that is the cellular concept, with topic co-channel interference and self-splitting. So let's start the session. First of all, interference. Interference is always an undesirable term and it is not at any cost acceptable. So, when the interference occurs, it reduces the signal strength, or we can say that signal power is reduced to the unpredictable level, or we can say that system performance may degrade due to the interference level. Due to interference, it also be possible that the signal strength is reduces, or we can say that signal is comparatively attenuated to some level and it is not desirable. So now in the cellular cell concept point of view, let's see what is the effect of interference on it. First of all, co-channel as well as the adjacent channel interference, or we will see that what is the difference between co-channel interference and adjacent channel interference. As you can see in this figure that one cellular cell network is shown over here. In this cellular cell network you can see the smaller cell as well as the larger cell. So here these cells which uses the same set of frequency, or we can say that the channels of the cells which uses the same set of channels. Here you can see that this cells in the red color uses the same set of channels. So these cells are called as co-channel cells, and the interference between these co-channel cells are called as a co-channel interference. Now let's see what is the adjacent channel interference. So basically the adjacent channel interference is related with the term of frequency. If the two cells are in the adjacent in frequency, then it is called as an adjacent cell, and if interference occurs between these adjacent cells, then it is called as a adjacent cell interference. There are various techniques of prevention for this adjacent as well as co-channel interference. So for reducing the co-channel interference, we can say that if in this red color set of cells, if there is a co-channel interference, then you can reduce it by reducing the distance between the co-channel cells. So here you can note that these co-channel cells, if we put it apart from each other, then it reduces the co-channel interference. For reducing the adjacent cell interference, you can use the filters for it. So this is how you can reduce the co-channel as well as adjacent channel interference. Now let's see what is the effect of co-channel as well as adjacent channel interference on the cluster, or we can say that for the cellular cell concept, what is the effect of co-channel on the reuse factor. So let's see. So for that, consider the relationship between them. So relationship is mainly given by the equation, that is d by r is equal to 3n raised to 0.5. Here 3n, here this n is called as a cluster size. You can define the cluster size n with non-negative integers I as well as j that we already discussed in the previous lecture, that is given by the I square plus ij plus j square. So based on this, let's see one table related to it. This is one table with different cluster size as well as for co-channel reuse factor or co-channel reuse ratio. Now this co-channel reuse ratio is nothing but the d by r. So we take the different cases, different 4 cases for the different values of I as well as for j. So you can note that for this first row, if I equal to 1 and j equal to 1, then the cluster size will become equal to 3. This can be calculated using the equation I square plus ij plus j square. Means if you put I equal to 1 means 1 square plus I into j means 1 into 1 plus j square means plus 1. So it will become n equal to 3. So this is how you can calculate the cluster size, and based on that cluster size, if you put this in the equation d by r equal to under root 3n, then you can get this value of co-channel reuse ratio, that is 3. Similarly, you can do this for the various cases. For I equal to 1, j equal to 2, for I equal to 2 and j equal to 2, and for I equal to 1 and j equal to 3. So for this all cases, you get the value of cluster size as well as for co-channel reuse ratio. So this is how you can relate with the signal to interference ratio. So now, based on this, what will be the conclusion? Based on this table, so we can conclude that from this table you can see that as the cluster size increases, means for the 3 value, for the 7 value, for the 12 value and for the 13 value, you can note that as the value of cluster size increases, the co-channel reuse ratio also increases. Means if you want to get the better signal to interference ratio, you should have the more value of cluster size for that particular cellular network, and that's a fact. So let's see one another ratio for this, that is signal to interference ratio equation. Now for signal to interference ratio, general consideration is given by S by I. S by I is given by the signal power divided by the total interference due to the co-channel cells. Now due to the co-channel cells, you can get the value of signal to interference ratio. So mainly, if signal power is denoted by the value S, then the interference can be given in this denominator value, that is interference due to co-channel cells. Now this interference is due to the multiple number of co-channel cells. There is a possibility that there is a one co-channel cell only, there is a two co-channel cell, or that may be the n number of co-channel cells. So this denominator term, interference due to co-channel cells, is actually the sigma of I, where I is varies from I0 to n number, means it depends on the number of co-channel cells. So if the number of co-channel cells is affected, then signal to interference ratio is again affected. Now, what will be the another case for this? So you can note that the relationship between SIR and co-channel reuse factor also depend on the distance to frequency reuse ratio, that is given by this. Here you can note that S by I is equal to R raised to minus n upon D raised to minus n. So here n is nothing but the path loss exponent. It depends on the value of environmental condition. So again, if you put the value of d by r over here, so d by r is nothing but the under root 3n. So it is under root 3n raised to n. Means under root 3n raised to n, where n is the cluster size and small n is the path loss exponent. So again we can say that signal to interference ratio depends on the interfering cell as well as for the cluster size. Now, have you ever wondered that what will happen if the wireless communication service area is increases, or we can say that if we require the more number of wireless services in a particular area? So in that case, what will occur? That if the signal power increases, then we can get the better performance. But if the signal power is not up to the mark, then what will happen is our interfering level will increases, and that will affect the system performance, and more number of interfering cells are there, and because of that you can say that the system degradation will occur, or you can say that it depends on the interfering cell, or we can say that it depends on the filtering technique used for it. So there is much confusion related to the wireless services area. If it increases, then what will happen? So to improve the regular service is necessary. Now the question is how one can improve that service. So for that you need the improvement techniques for the capacity increase for the cellular cell concept. So various improvement techniques are this. Here you can see that in the cellular cell concept the various improving techniques are: first is cell splitting technique, second is cell sectoring, and third is microcell zone concept. Now, what will happen in the cell splitting case, sectoring case, and microcell zone concept, that we will see later on in the detail one by one. First of all, let's see the common terms that are associated with the capacity of cellular cell concept, or we can say that for the intensity of cellular cell concept is necessary. So let's see the terms. Now, the terms related to increasing the overall capacity of cellular network. So for that, role of trunking and GOS is necessary. Now in this, the term grade of service. Grade of service is mainly related with the blocking capability or delaying capability of traffic intensity. So for this means to discuss about the trunking as well as for grade of service, you have to understand the three major important terms that are traffic intensity. The first term is the traffic intensity. Now, if you want to denote the traffic intensity, then it can be denoted by the capital A and subscript U. It means it is user traffic intensity. Now, if you want to define the term traffic intensity, then it is mainly given by the multiplication of the average time for call duration into the holding time for that particular call. So this gives us nothing but traffic intensity. Next term is Erlang B. For Erlang B, you can say that Erlang is basically the unit for measuring the traffic intensity. Now, for measuring the traffic intensity, it completely depends on the channel assignment technique that are used in the cellular cell concept, that we already discussed in the last lecture, that these techniques are the fixed channel as well as dynamic channel assignment. So for the fixed channel assignment, you can relate it with this Erlang B. Now in this term B is called as a blocking capability of particular user or for a particular cellular cell concept. Means it is associated with the fixed channel assignment technique. Means it decides the blocking capability of the cellular user. So this is Erlang B. And the third one is Erlang C. In the Erlang C, you can say that Erlang C is basically depend on the delaying capability of user. It's called delaying capability, or you can say that it is related with the delaying probability. Means basically Erlang B is traffic intensity when the call is in a queue. So these major terms are associated with the capacity or decide the capacity of the user, and we use this algorithm for increasing the cellular cell capacity. So let's see. First technique for increasing or for improving the cellular cell capacity, that is cell splitting. Cell splitting, the basic definition of cell splitting is the process of subdividing the smaller number of cells. Now let's see or let's understand it with this figure. In this figure, you can see that whole cellular network is divided into the number of cells. Now in this figure, you can see that there are larger number of cells also, and there are also some smaller number of cells. Now these number of cells are divided into the category of macrocell, microcell and picocell, but mainly we deal with the macro and microcell in this cell splitting technique. So the larger cells are macrocell and the smaller cells are called as a microcell. So based on this, let's see it with some equation terms. So for this, consider the original cell. Now you have to understand that this original cell is nothing but our larger cell. So for larger cell, the received power equation is given by PR0 or PRO is equal to PT1 into R raised to minus n. So in this case, PRO means received power for older cell is equal to the transmit power into R raised to minus n. Now this PT1 is called as a transmit power, R is the radius of original cell, n is called as a path loss exponent. Now for the original value cell, this equation is acceptable, and for the newer cell, now for the newer cell means radius is divided to the half of the value, means for the newer cell it is denoted by the equation PRN. So PRN is equal to PT2 into R by 2 raised to minus n, means it depends on the transmit power, radius divided by 2 raised to minus n, means it depends on the transmit power, and here please note that radius is divided to the factor half, means it is for the newer cell or for the smaller value cell. So in both the case you have the equation for older as well as for newer cell. So based on that you can compare both the equation and conclude it for the transmit power level, that what will be the effect if the radius is half of the original. So in both the case n is mass loss exponent. Now let's take one case study for n equal to 4. So now if we put this n equal to 4 in these both equations, then if we put first n equal to 4 in the first equation, that is PRO is equal to PT1 into R raised to minus n. So in that case what will happen is PRO is equal to PT1 into R raised to minus 4. In case of n equal to 4 for newer cell, it is PRN is equal to PT2 into R by 2 raised to minus 4. Means this both equation, if we compare this both equation, then you can say that received power in both the cases are same. So we can easily compare the transmit power in both the cases. So if we compare the transmit power for the older cell as well as for newer cell, for this equation and this equation, if we compare both, then we get the value PT2 equal to PT1 divided by 16. Now how this 16 will come? This 16 is come from this R raised to R by 2 raised to minus n, means R by 2 raised to minus 4. So 2 raised to minus 4 means 1 by 16 moves into denominator term, and that's why over here you can see that the transmit power is divided by the factor 16. So we can conclude from this equation that for the self-splitting technique, it is not required to use the highest transmit power, means we can say that the transmit power wastage is not possible over here. So this is the biggest advantage of self-splitting technique. Now let's see in the detail about the pros and cons of this. So first let's see about the advantages of the self-splitting. So we can say that it offers the greater system capability, means capability of the system increases. Then reuse of cell is possible because we can say that the larger cell is divided into the smaller number of cells. So we can say that we can easily reuse the number of cells for this particular network. Obviously transmitted power is reduced, that we already see in the case study that transmit power is divided by the factor 16 in this case. Now these are the advantages of self-splitting. There are also some limitations of this, that are first, more number of towers are required. Why this more number of towers are required? Because if you note that the cells are divided into the smaller number of cells. So what will happen is we require individual tower for the individual cell, and when this case is acceptable, then we can say that for each individual cell we require one tower. So if the number of cells are divided and increasing, then we can say that this requirement is necessary. So it becomes the limitation of the cell splitting. The other limitation of it is more number of handoffs are required. Obviously, handoff is transferring of mobile station from one base station to another base station. So in this case, more number of handoffs are required because cells are divided, or we can say that it is splitted by the radius factor. So for that, more number of handoffs are required. So these are the advantages as well as the disadvantages of self-splitting. So you can choose wisely about this technique. In the further lectures, we see about the other improving cell capacity techniques, that are the cell sectoring, macro cell zone concept, and repeaters. Now up to this, if you have any doubts or queries, you can ask me. on my email ID zalak.panchal_ljit@ljinstitutes.edu.in. Thank you for watching.